Hello, everybody. My name is Cody Reppert. I'm a student at SCAD. I'm studying user experience design. Today, I'd like to introduce you a product that can revolutionize the way that children interact with plants. Meet Seedly. Seedly has seen some success. Over the last year, it's won a Red Dot Award and also the UX Award. This is our team. It was comprised of 6 people. We had 4 different majors in 3 different countries. The main problem that we had seen is that by 2050, current food infrastructure will not be able to support the exponentially increasing population. And so to further that problem, the younger generations are not properly taught how to sustainably grow produce for themselves. And then the third part is that plants lack basic human connection. So we thought, how might we utilize modern technology to show kids the importance of agriculture in a fun and engaging way? So, meet Seedly. Oh, pardon me. Need to adjust the audio. All right.
By 2050, the current food infrastructure will not be able to support the exponentially increasing population. It's important to educate our youth on how to sustainably grow produce for themselves. Meet Seedly, a necklace for children that motivates them to continually grow and plant seeds every 2 weeks. The necklace communicates water and light levels with the app using the light blue beam via Bluetooth Low Energy, and the RFID tag enables personalized wireless integration within the app. The pendant communicates with the Philips Hue lights to indicate the seed needs water. The watering process is intuitive, allowing the kid to dip the necklace into water, soaking up the necessary amounts of nutrients into the soil sponge, and feeding the plant for the day. After 2 weeks, the germination period is complete and the app notifies the child. The app recognizes the necklace utilizing Bluetooth LE technology and provides an update, telling the child it's time to plant their seed. The child plants their seed, allowing the family to come together and watch their garden start to form. If the seed is planted every 2 weeks for a year, each child can add 26 food-producing plants to the ecosystem. Seedly, planting the future, one seed at a time.
So as you can see here, we have a few different color options for the product. This allows the child to have a customized experience with their own Seedly. So the device works by utilizing the light blue beam, which is a very small microprocessor that powers a photocell and a hydration sensor. And then it utilizes an RFID tag to communicate with the cellular device that the child is using. And it's all powered through a battery that is embedded in the bottom. This is June interacting with the application through the use of the RFID technology. This allows him to place his device on the phone, and it recognizes the specific device and the customized experience tailored to that specific plant. Our app integration with Seedly is where the magic happens for these children. It serves as the main hub for the interactions. So in this example, it can show you what the child would see. So they would place their device on the screen, and then it would provide a brief glance at their plant and its status. So in this case, Sam the Sprout is ready to be planted. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about our process and how we got to this final result. We started by looking at scholarly articles to see where different problems laid. So in one of the articles that we found, it states that gardens help students see science as part of their everyday world rather than just a subject taught in school. And this is from a City Sprouts program at the Cambridge Public School District. This reassured our beliefs that a positive experience in nature allowed students to bring the classroom beyond school. Another article we found reassured that students who gardened showed more pro-environmental attitudes. The more outdoor experiences they had, the more positive their attitudes. So we moved on to primary research, and we found through a survey that we sent out, we collected, there were 3 out of 10 people that actually gardened, but 8 out of those 10 people wanted to garden. So we found an opportunity through that. And we spoke with experts in the field. Brianne Arthur is an author of The Foodscape Revolution, which is a book that explains why people should be growing their own produce for themselves and sustainable agriculture. She said that 180 million acres of suburban land exists across the US, and we need to utilize those spaces for growing produce. And then she referred us to Dr. Alan Armitage, who is a horticulturist professor at the University of Georgia. And he said in lower school and middle school, it's important to foster a love for gardening. So this further reassured that we might be headed towards designing something for children. So after conducting our thorough research, we started to prototype. We created a physical prototype through an Arduino that utilized multiple sensors to test and see how this might actually work and if it was feasible. We then further developed our design iterations to realize areas that we needed to improve on through feedback that we received during our class. So we started with a very rudimentary design that actually was hanging it upside down, which we found that was not the best idea. And then we moved to something that is more like where it is today. So these are our final designs before we ended up branching off to our industrial designer who helped us with the final product. I personally worked with him to make the final design of the project. But before we did that, we had to figure out all of the dimensions, all of the different materiality, and that was something that we learned along this process. We had never done anything like this before, and so it was a huge learning opportunity. This is an example of how the system works in the bottom with the RFID tag, the watering hole, and the battery. So once we had the product modeled, we created a prototype out of cardboard to just rapidly prototype and test and see if this would actually work. And it did. Our prototype was able to grow a sprout within the first week. So after that, we decided to make a little bit of a higher fidelity prototype in order to test with children. So we used a vial, and we put some soil in there from the nearby ground that was enriched, and then we attached it to a string. And it was as simple as that. And we were able to test it with children like June. June is a 6-year-old who loves technology. He's actually excelling in his math classes. He just skipped 2 grades. So it's very impressive to see a child like that be able to work with our product. Another participant is Grace. She's an 11-year-old who enjoys the outdoors and customizable products. So our key takeaways from this research session is that the children wanted to keep the dirt in place and the device clean, and that was something that we addressed by utilizing a soil sponge, which it's actually like a soil block that includes different types of sponges on the inside that can then store more water than just regular soil. So that way, the child doesn't have to water the plant nearly as often as if it were regular soil. The second is they want the device to be personalized. I spoke that Grace loved personalized devices. She spoke to this, but June did as well. They wanted the device to be theirs, and they wanted it to have a different color. They wanted to be able to personalize their own. And the last takeaway is that they wanted the watering process to be simpler. So we did not actually address this in the final because we had already determined that there was going to be a watering hole. What they had experienced is they had to pour water into a bottle cap in order to put it in the top. And so that was a little bit different from our final design. So from start to finish, Seedly went through many developmental stages, allowing us to perfect the design and create an overall great experience for the children using the product. Seedly has the ability to change the way that children view plants and encourage them to contribute to the sustainable culture. If a child plants a new seed for 2 weeks every year, a child can contribute 26 food-producing plants to the ecosystem. So I hope you can see how this could change the world of sustainable agriculture in the future. Thank you. Any questions? It is not on the market, but if there are any VCs or any investors out here, we are very interested in proceeding. Yes. It was more of with the prototypes that we had and the fact that the water stayed in there and there was no drainage system and air holes. So yes, but in the final product, it's currently under development for implementing that system. Yeah, that's a great question. So we looked on Google Scholar for about a week. We had our week-long primary and secondary research that we combined into two. We kind of split it up in the first week, or first half of the week we spent on secondary, and so we scoured probably 100 or so articles. Maybe half of those were scholarly, and the other half were just relevant to the topic. This took 9 weeks. Any other questions? Mm-hmm. Yes, so initially they were a little hesitant to wear it, only because of the way that it looked. We had asked them to bring it into school, and they were not necessarily keen on that. But once we had the final design, they were interested in doing that. And so we did look into how wearables could be better or worse for the child to actually use. And so there was actually one mock-up of a watch wearable, but that was a little too, it had a little bit too much motion for the soil and everything to stay in place. But as far as the necklace, they liked the final design the most. And I think it was hard for them to get past this is a prototype. This isn't the actual design, and so that was the reason that they were a little hesitant. But at the end, they ended up enjoying it.
How durable is that final design, given that kids run around and play and they're going to be wearing it all day?
Right. So currently we have a 3D printed model. It's not made with the actual materials that we had specified, purely because of cost and everything like that. But the top is going to be made out of a silicone type rubber, and then the glass, it's not actually glass, it's more of a see-through polycarbonate. So it's very durable, and it provides an opportunity for children to still be children and not have to worry about the device.
You guys provide further guidance on how to grow the seed into a real plant or tree?
Did you ask if we'd like guidance to grow it into a, yeah.
Further guidance to the kids how to grow the germinated seeds into a real tree or plant.
Yeah, so I think this answers your question, but the application is the use for that. They're going to be communicating with the application multiple times a week, and it's going to tell them when they need water and sunlight. So that's how it can train them to do that, and then it tells them to plant the seed, and then after that, they've already kind of learned how often the seed needs water and sunlight, and so if they planted it in the correct area, then it can foster the growth of that plant.
Does the app keep track the progress or not really?
Yes, so the app makes a map of where all the plants that you've planted are, and it has a social aspect that you can possibly see where other children have planted their plants around the area. We're still testing that area purely because of safety, but there is an opportunity for us to look into how people can look at their plants after they're in the ground, but the only thing that we wanted to make sure is that we weren't planting devices into the ground, because then that could be unsustainable. So that's our difficulty with that part. That's a great question. It really will depend on the final materiality whenever it's actually built. However, we had aimed somewhere around under $50, purely because it's the main device that you get, and then the attachments are they're kind of like K-cups. You plug it in, and it's the seed for 2 weeks, and then all you have to do is get another pod, and then stick it back in, and it's another 2 weeks after that. So the pods will be more like a subscription type service, or you could go to your local nursery or Home Depot in order to get them. But we see it as more of you initially buy your product, and then it comes with a few different packets, different types of plants, and that could retail for maybe around $50, $49.99. So the actual main device? Yes, so that it's funny because we had many conversations about this and how we could possibly do that, but it also needs to be durable, like he mentioned, for the child to play around with. So that is a complication that we can still work through. I do not. We do have one. However, it probably would not have lasted the plane ride due to I only brought one bag, and so it would have been crushed most likely. because it is 3D printed at the moment. Thank you.